Welcome back, guys. Happy New Year. Okay, we are going to be looking at your 2021 report via your zodiac sign to see what can be coming up, warning dates, transformations, the unexpected, and the beautiful growth within the domain of both Saturn and Jupiter with that conjunction that just did transpire on the 21st of December 2020. Now, Saturn transited into Aquarius on the 17th of January, and the conjunction point, as I mentioned, occurred on the 21st of December at 0 degrees Aquarius. Now, Saturn spent approximately 2.5 years in Capricorn, and we did previously have the nodes in both Cancer and Capricorn. And I am seeing towards the end of 2020, with the full moon in Cancer and the heavy Capricorn placements in January, these themes bouncing off in a karmic test to get that foundation right, to really get that accountability there so that all that we've learned, we can apply it in this given situation within the age of Aquarius to get the best out of that astrology. Saturn connects to rules, discipline, responsibility, maturity, structure, challenges, restriction, enduring, death, the unknown, and endings. But it's really like a quality system to make sure that we're ticking all those boxes, learning those lessons, taking that direct accountability. And it's almost like the harsh karmic energy, but there's benefits in that. It's the lessons like a teach they teach us to really put that best foot forward, that if we do such with Jupiter, we can get the very best out of those placements. They can link to rights and responsibilities, obligations, false sense of freedom, and self-management. But it's really that self-mastery that it's going to teach us. And especially when it does go retrograde this year, it's a time to reflect upon what we've learned, what we've implemented, and as it goes direct to then make those changes. Theoretically, Saturn is at home in Aquarius. It's its natal ruler. Now, as I mentioned, Aquarius feels quite at home with Saturn. We also have the subcategory of Uranus being linked to it. That connects to the 12th house. So we have both the axis of the 11th and the 12th house themes coming through. Subject matters linking to Uranus and Taurus this year will be coming up because we have 3 squaring aspects. We also have at the beginning of January, Uranus and Taurus going stationary direct on the 1st and direct by the 14th. So sudden changes in those areas can be coming up in a very unexpected way. Aquarius really is the humanitarian of the zodiac sign, wanting to make the world better, looking at those social institutions that aren't working, transforming them, changing them up. The mantra is I know, and the tarot card is really linked to, with Aquarius, the star card in the tarot. The great connection of time. Saturn requires us to utilize that energy effectively, merge with that 11th house placement with where it's falling in your birth chart, which I will discuss in this video, to get the best out of the situation. And the yin-yang, the push-pull energy that will be coming up is Uranus and Taurus making squaring aspects to Saturn in Aquarius. So what themes can we have coming up with Saturn in Aquarius? Definitely the energy of responsibility and accountability, and it can be very karmic if we do not follow suit with it. Now, with Uranus and Taurus, it can cause nervous energy, especially when it relates to anything of the tactile, financial related dynamics. And again, it will very much depend upon where it's situated in your chart, which I will mention. So with that, both with the 11th and the 12th house, this push-pull psychology surrounding the situations you're doing, it can be quite a burden. So having to really self-master, having to be extremely organised, and it's almost like, okay, we can see the blessings with Jupiter and Saturn being directly linked together, but what we're going to do to make those things happen, but not biting off more than we can chew, burning that midnight hours, so to speak, waking up at the crack of dawn to make that hope and dream come true. Really taking the direct steps of accountability with Saturn. And yes, with the sudden changes, it's almost the intuitive side. The house of our hidden enemies is going to be our psychology, really. What potentially could we expect? We could expect very much philosophies to come up, humanitarianism, scientific revolution, music, dance, arts, group activities, more conducive relationships. There can be this notion coming up in 2021 and beyond where we have tribe and pack mentality. So initially we will need to adjust to the energy of Aquarius. If you do study zodiac signs, Aquarius, when they're born and they're growing into that energy, initially do feel like the black sheep of the family. They have very firm ideals. They really do fight for the underdog. So, initially it can feel like they're on the outside with those burdens and responsibilities. As we move into this, a lot of us can embody some of that frequency, and it can feel very foreign and alienating initially. But again, with the psychology of the 12th house, we do need to really have a goal in mind. That can be for the bigger picture, where we are learning to have alliances, learning to work together. And it can be due to circumstances that do happen in our own lives personally, or on a wider scale, a global situation that is pulling us together to make us directly work with each other. The old theme of there's no I in team. So, yes, initially pack mentality can come through, but then understanding that for survival will be there's no I in team, and really being open to that transformation. So I do see a lot of alliances. I do see a lot of people bridging gaps, finding unique ways to work with each other. This can be in collaborations. It can be to do with wider group situations. However it's going to play out, it's almost like we're in the Middle Ages moving to the modern ages. So we're the paved way in this point in time where, yes, in astrology, some do deem this as the recession, but there's the separate energy of the steps that we're taking to move out of this. There can be beautiful aspects. With Jupiter mid-year, it is moving and retrograding back into Pisces. Again, it will be very Uranian energy. Our psychology, time to reflect upon that. With our growth, are we on point? Do we need to look at something differently? Are we getting stuck in our heads? Are we putting our actual action and best foot forward? That will be the time that for a lot of us, it can be a little bit testing, but it's deeply informative also because we will have the time to assess such. So before I mention how this will affect your zodiac sign, I will mention the key dates that we need to mark on a calendar. And that is for Saturn and Aquarius will be direct between the 1st of January through to May the 23rd. By that point, all of your actions, especially when it does link to Jupiter, and I will mention Jupiter dates as well, we will have approximately 6 months really to get buckled down and get these things done. So I really did say, moving into January, it will be really hit the ground running to monopolize upon the Saturn-Jupiter energy to get the best out of your chart. Now, it will be going retrograde from May the 23rd, and it is at 13 degrees Aquarius, and it will stay retrograde until October the 11th. So you can find frustrations and reflection upon that accountability from a karmic point of view around that time, and then applying the changes as it goes direct from October the 11th at 6 degrees until January 2022. That will be at 11 degrees. Okay, beautiful Virgos, let's have a look at how Saturn will be transforming your life from 2020 through to 2023. Now, as I mentioned, Jupiter will be retrograding mid-year, and that will be moving into Pisces, and that's around June the 20th. So we do have different house placements for you coming up, linking to that, which I will discuss next up in the video. But for you, between the 1st of January through to May the 23rd, you have forward motion with both Saturn and Jupiter. Jupiter will retrograde later on in the point, so you'll still have that momentum moving forward. When it does come to Jupiter, it will be going retrograde more towards June, so you'll have an additional month there to get that forward motion. But with Saturn, you'll be reflecting upon the refinement of those areas and quality controlling it in the retrograde. So there can be some delays with that point, but you do have a window between the 1st of January through to May the 23rd to really monopolize in that area. Now for you, this connects into your 6th house. Now, this is a very interesting placement. I have been studying a lot more on how the 6th house placement can relate. And now we've got to remember the energies of what Aquarius brings. Aquarius is conducive energy. It's the bigger group. It can be global. It can be tribe mentality. It can be pack mentality. But it's also the bigger picture. Saturn's asking us to look at the bigger picture of situations, to build, to network, to bring things together, and to transform those areas of our life. Now, you have it in your 6th house placement. Now, 6th house placement can be a place where we maybe empathically understand the bigger point of everyone's needs, but it's also where we learn to develop and where we learn to create those healthy boundaries that we can't make everyone happy. Really, with the 6th house, health-related dynamics can come up. It can be if we have hopes and dreams relating to those areas with the 6th house, is what we would need to do to transform it. Now, it can be the house of hidden enemies, but it's also a place of where we transform that. The hidden enemy can be ourselves when we give our power away. It can also be the situations playing out that can be to the detriment of our health. It is connected to work, your work environment, your habits, your routines, your health, your daily, the day-to-day things that go into making your life and what would need to transform with healthy boundaries, both with yourself and both with the situations that you're trying to develop, including, all of those areas I mentioned. That how you can shift things around to get the best out of it. So if you were looking at your health, what you would need to do to fine tune that and to make that a bigger picture. If this was to do with work, how you would get the best out of it by balancing healthy boundaries with individuals and self and taking that best foot forward. So we will check in week by week, and we will be looking at the astrology and what potentially can be coming up for you during the year. This is merely an overview of what can come up to pre-warn you, forearm you, so you can get the best out of the situation. We're also going to talk about how Jupiter will directly impact these domains. Now, Saturn in Aquarius transit dates, before we move on to Jupiter, we are having Saturn in Aquarius direct from the 1st of January till May the 23rd, where it will go stationary retrograde on May the 23rd at 13 degrees Aquarius through till October the 11th at 6 degrees Aquarius. Now, the direct motion of this will be from October the 11th at 6 degrees through to January 2022 at 11 degrees. Okay, as for Jupiter, now I'm really looking at the charts, and with these placements, we did have, as I mentioned, the conjunction point with Saturn and Jupiter, and that was on the 21st in December 2020. Now, what we have moving forward are some beautiful aspects, but we really need to monopolize upon it, and this is going to take a great deal of accountability with that vision. So with Jupiter, it's showing the vision, it's giving us the energy, it's giving us the opportunities, but we will need to take direct accountability. And we do have a window pocket. Now, in the initial stages moving into 2021, we have most of the planets direct. We have Uranus and Taurus going stationary direct by the 1st and out of shadow by the 14th. So with Jupiter and Saturn, we have until about the end of January. And then even by mid-January, we're going to be in shadow stage of Mercury going retrograde, and it will be in the house of Aquarius. So it will both link to these big boys in the sky and reflecting upon what all this energy means between Saturn and Jupiter and what we're going to do with it, what some of these things are. And very much, as I mentioned before, with Aquarius, it can feel like the black sheep of the family. It can be pack and tribe mentality. It's wanting to have this innovation and change, and it's all for the people, but sometimes we can feel like the odd one out. So adjusting to this can take a little bit of time, so it's perfect that we will be having a Mercury retrograde going into shadow by about mid-January and then retrograde by the end of January. So moving into 2021, a bit of reflection on all the placements we hold within our zodiac signs where Aquarius lands, which I have mentioned and I'll continue to. how it's going to affect us, tuning into it. Now, contracts, signing of anything, there can be complications. There can also be additional information coming towards you, especially when it does come to group endeavors and growth. It can be not the best time to launch projects. Far better to, if you are going to launch anything relating to Aquarius, with both Saturn and Jupiter in those placements, better to wait till after Mercury direct. Okay, so the must-know dates with Jupiter. Jupiter is making two transitional points. One, it will be in Aquarius until June 20th, where it does move into Pisces, and we will get a very different energy. And around these dates, it's very important to pay attention to what some of these themes are, because Jupiter will be entering Aquarius again towards the 1st of January, which can be taking on those themes, and it will be at 0 degrees. So initially, we will have Jupiter direct from January the 1st at 2 degrees Aquarius until June the 20th. Now, it's pretty much a month after Saturn would have already been well and truly retrograde. We still have Jupiter direct, so it will land on June the 20th. Then with the retrograde, it's retrograde between the 20th of June at 2 degrees Pisces. Keep an eye on those dates. Till October the 18th at 22 degrees Aquarius. Now, as it moves direct on October the 18th, it will be in Aquarius until the end of the year, where it will yet again enter. So we have the retrograde point at the middle of the year. As I mentioned, pay attention to those dates, and that should hold you through. Now, we'll talk about how it's going to link to your zodiac sign, what these themes can be. Now, initially, Virgo, there will be a lot of placements occurring in your 6th house, and this can be to do with the responsibility, the accountability in group endeavors, bringing people together, but also where you fit into that mesh. Sometimes we can look at the common denominator energy. It's like, okay, how am I part of this group? How can I be part of this group? Are other people part of this energy? It's to do with your health. It's to do with your work. It's how things are coming together. But very much the biggest picture is going to be how we're merging with group activities and it occurring on the bigger level. Now, your health can come down to this as well. What we can do to transform that department of our life, both with Saturn and Jupiter, also expanding spiritually, psychologically, being able to grow beyond wounds, creating healthy boundaries, as well as turning over new leaves when it does come to health. Managing our time effectively, things to that degree can come up. Now, when it transits and retrogrades into Pisces, quite unique in the way it's going to be. It's retrograding in a sign we haven't experienced it yet this year. So some of that can be quite an interesting perspective to do such. So we're going from the 6th to the 7th. The 7th house placement is marriages, contracts, partnerships. For you guys, you can be looking at that, really tuning into where connections are, the spiritual connection, the things that you're tapping into, the psychology surrounding it, the hopes and dreams. And it is very Neptunian to a degree. Now, during that time, you can find that you're looking at the delusions, the dreams, the alignment of situations relating to your marriages, contracts, partnerships. For those of you that don't know, 7th house placement can link in with your work, the people you're mixing with, your love interest, your hopes and dreams and aspirations. Very Venus orientated energy. It also can be your diet and the things that you're eating, going from the 6th and moving to the 7th. So pay attention to that. And as it goes direct, it's going to give you a hunch energy as to what's coming up the following year. It will be retrograde pretty much from June the 20th, and then it moves out of that during October on the 18th, where we go back to the energy of the Aquarius, and the focus will then be on healthy boundaries, career sector, the work you're putting in, and moving and developing that 6th house placement. Okay, so the must-know dates with Jupiter. Jupiter is making two transitional points. One, it will be in Aquarius until June 20th, where it does move into Pisces, and we will get a very different energy. And around these dates, it's very important to pay attention to what some of these themes are, because Jupiter will be entering Aquarius again towards the 1st of January, which can be taking on those themes, and it will be at 0 degrees. So initially, we will have Jupiter direct from January the 1st at 2 degrees Aquarius until June the 20th. Now, it's pretty much a month after Saturn would have already been well and truly retrograde. We still have Jupiter direct, so it will land on June the 20th. Then with the retrograde, it's retrograde between the 20th of June at 2 degrees Pisces. Keep an eye on those dates, till October the 18th at 22 degrees Aquarius. Now, as it moves direct on October the 18th, it will be in Aquarius until the end of the year, where it will yet again enter. So we have the retrograde point at the middle of the year. As I mentioned, pay attention to those dates, and that should hold you through. Now, we'll talk about how it's going to link to your zodiac sign, what these themes can be. Okay, Virgo, the dates that you need to be mindful of. Between the 1st of January, we are going to be having, as I mentioned, Jupiter and Aquarius, which links to your 6th house placement. And it is going to be there till about the 19th of June. So you can have forward movement and changes directly linked to this, apart from when we do end up having Mercury retrograde. And that will be around the pocket of time of, I'd say, from mid-January through to the end of February. There can be frustrations and, your thoughts. Really pay attention to your thoughts, your psychology, what you're speaking, because Mercury will be retrograde in your 6th house. Now, this can be between healthy boundaries. It can be health-related dynamics. It can be looking at your career, wanting to transform it. Do that reflection. It's not a great time to launch anything. It's a better time to reflect. Now, June the 20th, we are having Jupiter retrograde into Pisces. Now, this will be all subjects relating to your 7th house placement, marriages, contracts, partnerships. Having a look at those, reflecting upon it, looking at the bigger picture, very Neptunian, because we do have Neptune and Pisces, reflecting upon this time between June the 20th through to October the 17th. On the 19th, we'll have it going direct into Aquarius again at 22 degrees. So during this time of the retrograde, it can give you a bird's eye view into what 2022 is going to be like, and that's due to the fact that we're going to be having Jupiter in Pisces. Now, it will stay direct from October the 18th, 22 degrees Aquarius in your 6th house placement, until January the 1st at 0 degrees Pisces. So pay attention. That's the critical degree point in astrology, and it will be sudden changes relating to your marriages, contracts, partnerships. If you take the direct steps during that retrograde, you'll be secured, so everything should be in alignment. If you don't, yes, it can feel quite liberating, but it can be very good as well. Let's have a look at Uranus and Taurus. Now, it will be stationary shadow by the 1st of January 2021 at 6 degrees Taurus. It then will be direct by the 14th of January at 6 degrees Taurus. Now, the direct motion will be pretty much from January 14th through to August the 20th, where it will be at 14 degrees Taurus. So we have that pocket between January and August where we can have that direct movement with anything that we've reflected upon, all those changes that may have occurred. And the changes can be coming up in the first 2 weeks of January. And although we do have 3 squaring aspects this year with Saturn and Uranus and Taurus, I am feeling, although major astrologers are discussing the fact that we're going to have 3 major shifts when it does come to Uranus and Taurus squaring Saturn in Aquarius, I really do feel the beginning of the year is going to give us this theme of what potentially can come through. And I will discuss dates, very much linking into these energies, during the year and, throughout. So the retrograde, the next retrograde cycle is between August the 20th at 14 degrees Taurus and January the 1st at 10 degrees Taurus 2022. Now, the first point of the squaring aspect that we are experiencing will be February the 17th. Now, with that, we will already have Mercury retrograde in Aquarius. It would, by mid-January, we will be having those shadow aspects plus Uranus and Taurus is in shadow cycle. So it can be, again, pretty much anywhere from the 1st till the 14th and the 17th. There can be sudden changes and difficulties when it does come to Aquarius and Taurus placements. Now, the second part of Uranus and Taurus squaring Saturn will be on June the 14th. Now, Saturn in Aquarius will be retrograde from May the 23rd till October the 11th. We also will have Jupiter in shadow during this time, moving into retrograde into Pisces by June the 20th. By this point, prior to the squaring aspect occurring with both Uranus and Taurus and Saturn and Aquarius, we would have had the annular solar eclipse, the new moon in Gemini at 19 degrees. And we also have Pluto in Capricorn retrograde between April the 27th and October the 6th at 24 degrees Capricorn. So, you know, with this phase during June the 14th, you can find again, major themes to do with the eclipse can be cycling, and that's due to the fact that we have the North Node in Gemini, and this is a brand new moon, so it will be an ending and a new beginning. When it comes to Jupiter, the reflection state and the shadow cycle of that will be moving into effect, so we'll already be feeling that by this point, by the time we have Uranus and Taurus squaring Saturn and Aquarius. And on top of that, just to make things really, really nice, we would have already had Saturn retrograde. So it's the reflection time. It's the frustration of, okay, where hadn't we taken accountability when it relates to the Aquarius placement? Is it something financial? Is it something in a value system, spiritually? However it's playing out, I'll link it to you once I finish these three aspects. We will discuss, you know, how this is going to affect us all. Okay, now December 24th, we do have Uranus and Taurus squaring Saturn in Aquarius. Now, there are major themes on this month occurring that will directly kind of impact this one zone. So we do need to look at those before we do look at Uranus and Taurus squaring Saturn in Aquarius. Now, number one, Uranus and Taurus will still be retrograde, and that's until January 2022. It went retrograde August the 20th at 14 degrees Taurus until, as I mentioned, January 2022. We also, on the 4th of December, had a solar eclipse, new moon in Sagittarius. So it's an ending in one domain and a brand new beginning in another. The other area we need to be mindful of is that Aries and Chiron is stationary direct. It should still be in shadow. By this time, it went direct as of the 19th, but there still can be, you know, this lag and recuperation that we're trying to get. On top of that, we have the Sun in Capricorn. So yeah, really having to look at that accountability within our lives, utilizing that energy that we had at the beginning of the year and looking at things to do with our accountability, showing up. It can be government related dynamics, but the accountable energy and going back to that foundational level. Mars also is going to be in Sagittarius. So both with the eclipse and with Mars, it's really pushing towards those new Jupiter energies in a very unique way. Now, Aquarius is the polarity of the collective. It's the it's the person that understands, or energy rather, we should say. It's the collective energy that will be coming through, but it's the humanitarian. It's groups forming, it's the people, so to speak. So wherever it's falling in your chart, it's going to be deeply important. Now, Uranus and Taurus understands the requirements for the structures, but also is understanding the necessity for change when it does come to Uranus and Taurus. So we need a balance of both worlds, but there can be complications surrounding those energies. And as Uranus and Taurus goes direct, and it kind of matches because we'll have Venus retrograde in Capricorn, the Sun in Capricorn, putting your energy into that to make these things happen. Mars in Sagittarius, the solar eclipse that occurred, which was a new moon, and for the next 6 months we can have activations on that point, plus Uranus and Taurus squaring on the 24th. So do expect either side and pretty much the entirety of the month, you know, being prepared, looking at those placements, working on those areas so that when it does come to the squaring aspects, you're in alignment. Now, sudden changes can happen with placements linking to Uranus and Taurus, and it can be instantly. Now, this can happen anytime either side of this month due to the fact that the energy of its squaring is occurring on the 24th, but because it's retrograde, any inklings you have, and I'll name the dates again, between August the 20th, be prepared. Start looking at those things that need changing. Yes, sudden changes may have happened around then. It can give you an idea as to what can be coming up right now, and start implementing them before that time. Really use those times in the retrograde effect to implement those changes of where those, tension points were in life, so that when it does come to that point, you're not going to have a very tense Christmas. Now, because we're having Aries and Chiron direct, yes, our wounds are relating to an area, but we can't allow our wounds to stand in our way. And it's beneficial that it's direct. We can have a little bit more energy moving out of our way, so to speak. That's why it's there for, for the 7 years, is to help us develop that. But looking at the key themes of both Taurus and Aquarius to get the best out of it, and trying to find the yin and yang. Now, Taurus collectively can relate to land, agriculture, beauty, our finances, food, resources, and Aquarius is the wider group energy of the people. Again, it can be institutions, it can be viewpoints, it can be value systems, helping one another, sometimes to the detriment of ourselves. So it's going to be this fine line, and even moving into the beginning of 2021, really adjusting to that. And the benefit will be that we'll have that pocket time to kind of ease into it, but it can feel a bit like it's thrown upon us. So bear in mind there can be tension points there. Any themes that come up around August, pay very close attention. Fine tune them, move them so that you're protected. I'd probably say if you want to store, get your Christmas presents in order well and truly before the end of the year. Start, paying for those things little by little, so that it's not going to agitate the apple cart. That can be wherever, again, which I will talk about for your zodiac signs during the year and inside this video separately, where we can discuss what can be coming up for you. Beautiful Virgo, let's have a look at Uranus and Taurus squaring Saturn in Aquarius on February the 17th. Now, at the beginning pocket of January, anything really relating to your 6th house placement of your health, your work, the way you're showing up, get all those things in order. If there's any paperwork you're waiting to get done, because Mercury is going to be retrograde, by mid-month we'll have the shadow of January 2021, and Uranus and Taurus will be going direct. So it will be similar aspects to what's going to occur February 17th should we not deal with these things. This can be with the 9th house, our belief systems, education. It can be marketing, foreign countries. This can also be, when it comes to your health, documentation, paperwork, getting your routine in order, healthy boundaries with individuals, especially when it does come to big group situations. There can be, to a degree, time where you're needing to recoup, but a lot of focus will be during this year on that 6th house placement. Now, as I mentioned, it can be the place of hidden enemies, but Taurus is wanting you to transform beyond that point. There's responsibilities when it does come to the 6th house placement with Saturn there, and Taurus is saying, okay, this can also be, how do I put it? 9th house can be the bigger picture. What do you need to do in order to, get those things in order, change those things about, make those hopes and dreams happen. Can be food related dynamics as well, with Taurus and Venus related dynamics. Now, I'm definitely saying between viewpoints and belief systems, there can be push-pull on the 17th, especially when it does come to the way we're seeing things. Check in the first 2 weeks of January. As we have Mercury going retrograde, subjects to do with your 6th house can be under review, and you might not, information that was missing can come towards you, especially when it relates to anything health, your work, your daily routine, getting those things in order. And we're also going to have Mars moving into Taurus. So for you, anything of the bigger picture, doing anything educational, these things can be changing very drastically. And to balance the 9th house, communication's the key. So yes, tension points can occur between your 6th and your 9th house, even paperwork coming in. How do you get there? What do you do? The attaining of the hopes and dreams in relation to your health, your work, and, you know, moving that routine forward. Now, June the 14th, similar aspects, squaring difficulties when it does come to your health, your work, your routine, your daily environment, as well as the 9th house, you know, going the distance, growing, expansion, networking with foreign countries, travel, being on mission, being in purpose. And it can be spiritual beliefs as well and value systems, but that's set to transform and change. During this point, what we do need to understand is during June 14th and the squaring aspect, difficulties can come up relating to this, but patience will be required. Solutions will come about. We do have Saturn in Aquarius retrograde till October the 11th, so that will connect in to things relating to health, responsibilities, work ethics, what to do to transform it. It can be pets as well, subjects to do with pets. Jupiter also will be moving into shadow because it will be going retrograde, and we'll see subjects linking to Pisces. Now for you, this is with your marriages, contracts, partnerships. Having a look at that point during the year will give you a bird's eye view of 2022 when Jupiter transits into Pisces. You also have the energy of Pluto retrograde in Capricorn. So subjects to do with children, romance, luck, creative endeavors, projects can be under review. What you need to do, what you can do to tie these loose ends up, what needs to go, what can stay, what can go. Moreover, we would have had the annular solar eclipse new moon in Gemini, which links to work, your career sector, what you've been doing to advance yourself, transformations in that area. So we don't have a Mercury retrograde at this point. So it would be, if you're looking for work, this can be, you know, tying up those loose ends, getting that paperwork moving, networking, communication, getting those things out there is going to be quite beneficial. Now let's quickly have a look at June with Mars energy, because it can bring about themes for you that potentially can be coming up. Now again, 12th house placement can be trust your hunches, but it also can be the place where we imprison ourselves, we get stuck. You know, what are our belief systems linked to this? How are we viewing this? Try not to get stuck, but look at, it can be a psychological situation going on that you directly understand. And being a Virgo, you do have that innate way of understanding analytics and data. So if you're working with people, it can be seeing their way of seeing things, but just make sure with that 6th house placement, you're creating those healthy boundaries. It's one thing to be an empath, it's one thing to overburden yourself and feel you have to own it and correct it. Shift the energy with the mirror onto self. If it's conducive and it's working as a team, it's very different. And the beautiful thing is, it makes many people, not just poor Virgo, because we do have for you Aquarius in the 6th. So it's not just your responsibility technically, it's with the bigger group, what part of that is your responsibility. Oh, the joy, the day before Christmas, and we're having Uranus and Taurus squaring. It's like, Yildiz, what does this mean? Okay, Uranus and Taurus. Let's see. Okay, number one, value systems, belief systems, movement is linked to this, as well as things relating to potentially if you've got children, their schooling, their education, what's happening. But it's very personal as well, because it is linking to you in your 9th house. So Uranus and Taurus during this time will be retrograde until January 2022. So a lot of reflection can go into your education, upskilling, networking, foreign countries, your purpose, value system, siblings, as well as we would have had on the 4th the solar eclipse new moon in Sagittarius. And for you, this can link to home related dynamics. So tying up loose ends at home is going to help this situation, making sure everything's in order, getting ready, getting balanced, maybe even moving home can come up as a subject matter. So the squaring aspect can bring things to where to from here. And it may be that you've been tying loose ends up, you know, doing things differently, When it does come to value systems at home, it may be taking a relationship to the next level, but very separately, it is a home related dynamic, be it you're saving for a home, wanting to buy for a home, and you're in a better position at this point, and it's okay, we've completed that, what are we going to do from here? This can even be signing contracts and having that movement happen due to circumstances. Now, Uranus and Taurus does bring the unexpected. And that can be sudden movement moving into January. Now, if you're feeling difficulty in December during the 24th, changes can come about very suddenly in January as Uranus and Taurus goes direct. During this time, we also have Venus retrograde in Capricorn, and that again is till January 2022. And for you, it is to do with your romance, children, luck, creative endeavors, the luxuries, having fun. You're gonna see with that, which is really nice actually, from an assessment point, very Virgo in nature. It's like, okay, show me the good, the bad, the ugly. I need to step back and I want to see the analytics, but I want to see the value in it, which is very educational. So with these things, it's a bit like, cause and effect sort of thing. That's what's coming through for your chart. So looking at that, I do feel you guys will have a deeper understanding by the time we move into the first week, 2 weeks of January. And anything related, to do with children, romance, your luck and, your hunch energy, what you're going to do, you'll get success moving in to that time. And pay attention to what was going on January to guide you for December. I would especially suggest making sure documentation is in order well and truly before December. Anything fourth house placement related, pay attention to it. You do have to focus on the North Node of Gemini, which is your work, what you're doing to make some of these things happen, especially when it relates to healthy boundaries with individuals, as well as what your responsibility is versus others. There can be this lesson that you're learning, and it can be taking on management roles. To delegate to individuals, but don't overburden yourself. You have to be really careful not to do that so that you can keep in balance. And ironically enough, during Venus retrograde on the 19th, we have Aries and Chiron going stationary direct. Let's have a look at your chart. You will have Aries hitting your 8th house. This can be anything to do with taxation, money, the give and take in connections, legacies, wills, so wounds linking to that area, you will be able to move away from your own way. Trigger points might have come up linking to that during that transit of the retrograde with Aries and Chiron, but facing that shadow, not allowing it to define you and jumping in the deep end of that deeper connection will benefit you. Now, I'm only going to briefly touch on Pluto in Capricorn because it is sort of counteracted by Saturn and Jupiter. So it will ease up. We have had a lot of heavy placements. Now, January can be a large point of this, and December because we have a lot of placements there. Plus, when the retrograde effects happens, I check in with you month by month, and I do give you the daily updates. Now, the direct cycle will be from January the 1st at 24 degrees Capricorn. And we're having a Mercury retrograde shadow period by mid-month. So that can be anything Aquarian related, what we need to tie up, miscommunication, crosswise. But anything relating to those loose ends, get paperwork done in the first 2 weeks. And you pretty much got through till April 27th. Now, by April, anything relating to that Capricorn placement, there can be reflection upon those things, refinement, and that will be from April the 27th at 26 degrees. The higher in the degree point it gets, the more critical the aspect. We're doing 24, and 0. There's certain critical degree points that can be pretty harsh. So retrograde as of April the 27th through to October the 6th at 24 degrees Capricorn. Then from October the 6th through to January 1st, it will be direct, and it goes retrograde again, 2022. Okay, let's talk about the Capricorn placement for you, Virgo. Now, at the beginning of the year, subjects to do with your 5th house placement can come up, and they may be a point of responsibility, transformation, and change. And it's very similar to getting that 8th house placement done, moving things around. it may have been a huge burden. Now, the fifth house connects to romance, children, birthing, creative energy, and luck. Now, if you found that you haven't had a lot of luck in that department, and if indulgence has affected you, your responsibilities, sometimes with fifth house placement, we can really be indulging, we can really be building, so it takes a lot of our energy. Now that we have both Saturn and Jupiter in that placement, it's moving towards your sixth house placement. So it can be really getting that balance in order, creating those healthy boundaries. But what you need to let go of can be some things relating to it, and it's sharing of burdens. It can be very eighth house placement with finances, sharing of resources. There may have been a lot of heavy energy there. Now, the time frames where Pluto is going to come up for you will be at the beginning of the year with heavy Capricorn placements, mid-year when Pluto goes retrograde, and towards the end of the year when Venus transits Capricorn. Pay attention to that. Major situations, transformations, and what would the word be? Reflection. Also, subjects to do with birthing, children, luck, co-creative ventures, tying up those loose ends, getting that money and resource into that area. That will change, but decision times can also come up January 2022. So pay attention to the beginning of the year, the themes that come up, and those subjects during the transits can occur, as well as follow me live and I can cover the transit week by week. Okay, let's have a look at Neptune and Pisces. Two things to mention before I get into the dates of the directs and the retrogrades is I will mention the astrology during the month, how these things are playing out for you week by week, as well as Jupiter is going to be transiting mid-year into Pisces. So this will be a double whammy for Neptune and Pisces. We're also going to have, let me have a look at the charts for Mars. Okay, more towards October and December, there can be these things coming up, but let's have a look at the dates. Now, on January the 1st, we will have Neptune direct until June the 25th at 23 degrees Pisces. Its retrograde date is June the 25th till the 1st of December. So there can be deep reflection in this area, which again, I do remember we do have Uranus and Taurus squaring Saturn and Aquarius around that time. So it'll be retrograde till then, going stationary direct. And again, it can be sometimes quite slow moving. So any of those areas that maybe you haven't launched, transform, change, or the house that it's linking to, which I'll talk about shortly, there can be tension points there. Now, it will be pretty much direct from the beginning of December through till the end of this year into 2022. And it'll be at 20 degrees Pisces. Let's have a look at the placements. Okay, Virgo, let's have a look at Neptune in Pisces for you. Now, this is set to change a lot of things. Now, in 2021, not only will we have Neptune direct, will also have the retrograde effect. That can be when you're reflecting upon this house placement, which is your 7th house placement. Marriages, contracts, partnerships. So themes to do with these subjects can potentially come up during this time for reflection and change. It also can be where our viewpoints, our belief systems can be coming up. Because it is very Pisces in nature. Now, very separately, mid-year, Jupiter is retrograding into Pisces. So yet again, we can have a window view as to key themes, what can be coming up in 2022. Now, Aquarius links to your 6th house placement. And during this cycle, anything relating to your health, your work, your daily routine, anything you're trying to change there can be a lot of busy energy in that domain because there's a responsibility with Saturn, and Jupiter can be expansion. So you can be expanding your social circle, your responsibilities can be growing, more conducive with tribe, but very separately, health-related dynamics can come up for transformation and change, as well as looking at Neptune and Pisces can see where you're on point and where you're not. But follow me. We do have transits week by week, as well as you can book a reading directly below, but I'll give you the most relevant up-to-date information live. Okay, let's have a look at Mercury retrograde. Now, Mercury is going retrograde 3 times this year. And some of these subjects we need to look at because they're going to highlight different places of our chart. It will be direct from the 1st of January until mid-month. Now, we're going to get that shadow cycle, and it's going to be in the house of Aquarius. Now, this is going retrograde as of the 30th, but mid-month you can feel some of those shadow aspects. So it will be pretty much from January the 30th at 26 degrees Aquarius, retrograde until February the 21st at 11 degrees. Now, that's most of February. So if there's anything paperwork related or wherever that falls in your house, pay attention to that retrograde cycle, and it can cause some frustration. Now, from there, it will be direct from February the 21st, 11 degrees Aquarius, until May the 29th at 24 degrees Gemini. Now, a lot of subjects relating to Gemini will come up during the next retrograde cycle, and that is between May the 29th, 24 degrees Gemini. Remember, we've got the North Node in Gemini, until September the 27th, 25 degrees Libra. Okay, from that point we have the direct motion, and that will be from October the 18th, 10 degrees Libra, until January 2022, 28 degrees Capricorn. So a lot more Capricorn themes coming up in January 2022. So what themes can be coming up? Now, the first retrograde is Aquarius energy. Pay attention to that cycle between January and February. The next retrograde is between May and June, and it's in the house of Gemini. The third one is between September and October, and it's in the house of Libra. So again, I will talk about this for your zodiac sign. Food for thought, remember these dates. Okay, Virgo, now the first retrograde is occurring in your 6th house. Now, this can be subjects relating to your health, work, how you're showing up, subjects to do with pets. Again, it can always be a busier time, but deep reflection will be on these domains. What to do, missing information, especially if you're going to the doctors, there can be missed appointments, forgotten things, but just a very, very busy time. So frustrations can link to this, which can impact the 6th house. Pay attention to that, as it does go direct from February 21st. There can be some reprieve. Now, the second transit is occurring in Gemini, and this connects to your 10th house placement. And there can be a lot of deep reflection on your career sector, your work, and how it's transiting. Now, because the North Node's there, much of this year into next year, your deep reflection is connected to Gemini, and it's the North Node of New Karma. So really focusing on this is going to be deeply important during the year. Focus on that work. Reflection can be coming up, giving you clarity as to what to do. If you're applying, apply prior to Mercury retrograde in Gemini. As it goes direct again, you can have forward movement in that domain. Now, with the third Mercury retrograde, it is occurring in Libra. Now, this is your 2nd house placement. This can be, waiting for money to come in. It can be also your net worth value, land, material value. It can be increasing, but again, it's retrograde in that house, so reflection will be relating to those subject matters. What's yours, what's mine? Again, paperwork related, get everything done prior to Mercury retrograde. Expect it to be busier, expect there to be frustration. You can feel in limitation during the retrograde due to the fact it's 2nd house placement, and there can be added expenses during this time. Keep your receipts just in case you're buying devices and things to that degree, so you are covered during those transits. Okay, now Mars transits. Number 1, we are not having a Mars retrograde. Number 2, we won't feel as tired. Number 3, can we all say yay? Okay, now, yes, Aries will still be linking inside your chart system due to the fact that we have Aries and Chiron there. It will be going retrograde once this year, which I will discuss live on the channel. I won't incorporate it in this energy, but always paying attention to that energy can help you actually deal with wound related dynamics, because we do have Aries and Chiron there for 7 years, I believe. So we have moved through the first phase of it. So I believe. Now, let's have a look, Virgo, at where that hits for you. 8th house placement. This can be to do with people passing away. It can do with deeper intimacy in connections, feeling accepted, you know, being able to have those contracts, being able to bounce back after adversity, and being able to learn to let go. But yet again, very interesting year after 2020. So I think all of us collectively can directly relate to Virgo today. But you will have some reprieve in that area as we have Mars moving on the 6th of January into Taurus. Now, this is going to be your 9th house placement. Some of you may wish to move. Some of you feel potentially or will have energies relating to foreign countries, cultures, or there could be subjects coming up relating to this. Now, Mars is yin and yang. If you're using it effectively, it can be a great time to get educated, upskilling, educating. It can be a great time to be interconnecting with social media and launching career sectors and things to that degree. So this can also be to do with siblings because it's a 9th house placement, education, blogging. What else? This process for you will be there from January till March 3rd. Now, this can be highly activated energy. So in a yin yang, if it's high vibration, you can be pouring it into that bigger plan for life and where you want to go in life. Not necessarily it has to happen right now, but what direct steps are you taking to make that happen? In a lower frequency, it can be, again, combative, because that's Mars. It's just the way it goes. Okay, so from March 3rd, it moves into Gemini. This can be subjects relating to career, and deep focus will be in this area. There can either be frustration or you're pouring your energy healthily into your career domain. Anything you're directly working on between March 3rd, April 23rd. April 23rd, it transits into Cancer. This is your 11th house placement, and a lot of subjects will be there connected to the 11th house placement until June the 11th. It can be a time when you're really reflecting upon your hopes, dreams, and aspirations, bringing groups together or working with groups. As it transits into Leo on June the 11th through till July the 29th, a lot of subjects relating to your psychology, situations can be playing out. They can be testing you and agitating you, but really digging in deep and seeing where potentially you could be standing in your way. This can be creative ideas. It can be guided meditation and wanting to really recruit, but there can be people coming at you at that point because it's Mars. So I wouldn't feel it would be making you tired. I'd feel it would be psychologically fatigued. So clear out that mind. From July the 29th, it's transiting your first house of Virgo. So again, you can feel very energized if you have followed suit with the transit previously. This can even be changing the way you're showing up in the world and being very assertive, but do expect people to be flocking towards you. Now, from October the 30th, it's transiting your 3rd house placement of Scorpio. This can be very busy on the road. It can be hustle and bustle, daily grind, getting those things done. You may be communicating a lot more during this time. Be careful of throat chakra with communication. Mars can be aggravated and assertive. You know, we want it to come through in a transmutation of effectively communicating, and sometimes Mars can be a little bit aggravated. So caution with that and caution with driving. Pay attention on the road during October the 30th and December the 13th. From December the 13th, moving into January 2022, a lot of subjects relating to your home. Getting your home in order. It can be buying a home. What you're going to do with that energy, you'll have a pocket window to transform that. And around that time, we'll have Venus retrograde in Capricorn rather. So pay attention to that house. That can be a point of decisions. For you, this can be to do with children, romance, luck, and creative endeavors. And reflection on it can be there till it goes direct. Now, we'll cover that later. Anyway, love and light. Follow me live. Let's get into the next part. Last points, Venus retrograde. Now, that is occurring December the 19th until January the 1st. The other point I do want to mention is Chiron in Aries. Now that retrograde is occurring from July the 15th at 12 degrees Aries until December the 19th, 8 degrees Aries. So pay attention to those times. You can feel a little bit fatigued during that time and irritable, linking to the 8th house. But because we have Mars transiting other signs, subjects relating to Sagittarius will come up towards December due to the fact we have the eclipse. Okay, as for your eclipse dates, we have the eclipse in May the 26th, a total lunar eclipse, which is a full moon in Sagittarius at 5 degrees. We then have an eclipse in June 10th, which is an annular solar eclipse, new moon in Gemini at 19 degrees. And then November the 19th, it's a partial lunar eclipse, full moon in Taurus at 27 degrees. And then finally, in December, on the 4th, we have a total solar eclipse, which is a new moon in Sagittarius at 12 degrees. Again, I will follow these live for all your up-to-date information and energy relating to the astrology. So if you have listened through this far, thank you very much. Take care, beautifuls. I'll see you soon. Again, if you do want a booking, the link is below. I'll see you during all the super chats and the live updates during the month, and we'll check in at the next stop to see how your zodiac sign's going. Love and light, guys. See you soon.